Police and Just Stop Oil are accusing each other of blocking an ambulance car during a slow march by climate activists on Waterloo Bridge in central London. Around 55 protesters who travelled from South Wales and the north and southwest of England walked in the road today as part of an ongoing Just Stop Oil autumn campaign against fossil fuel licences. Let's speak live to James Skeet, who is a spokesperson from Just Stop Oil. Good afternoon, James.
Good afternoon, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. The police say that your protest group blocked an ambulance car. Did you?
So just to clear this up, Jim, I think what we've seen today is that we had a protest march that was moving on the northbound lane of Waterloo Bridge, and the police actually blocked both ends of the bridge briefly, and they unblocked the other lane for a time, and then traffic came back down on the southbound lane. So at no point had any Just Stop Oil supporters been blocking that lane. And in fact, actually, by the time that ambulance was going past, all of the Just Stop Oil supporters had been taken into police custody. So the police had actually located them into the middle reservation and onto the curb. Now, that's not to downplay the fact that obviously we accept that our actions cause disruption. And, you know, obviously we accept that there are potential consequences for that.
Yeah.
But I think we've got to understand that, you know, that there are a limited range of options available to us as normal people in order to get our voice heard, and walking in the road has been one of those options that we've had for many centuries, and obviously there are, you know, we accept that none of these options available to us are perfect or necessarily cost-free.
Do you accept, James, that nobody's life or health is more valuable than others then?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's, you know, the fundamental reason that we take the action that we do is because we're trying to protect life. And obviously,
James, you're saying you're trying to protect life. A paramedic driving the ambulance car told The Telegraph, "I'm responding to a life and death emergency. I'm going to pick up a team from Guy's Hospital to save someone's life at another hospital, but I can't get through." By that action, by you being on the road, the police obviously had to be there to protect other people. If your protest wasn't there, that ambulance vehicle wouldn't have been blocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously, you know, I have to, you know, I extend my deepest sympathy and well wishes to anyone requiring emergency treatment.
So why do it?
Well, because, you know, we have to accept that in 2023. Inaction is not a neutral position, right? We have a government that's licensing new oil and gas, the burning of which we're seeing is destabilizing our climate. We're seeing the impacts of that worldwide. We're seeing extreme weather. You know, we saw 7 people die in this country in the last couple of weeks. We've got thousands of people currently disconnected from their water supply. So, you know, in the face of that, well, what would you have us do? Because
it's not working. James, the problem is it isn't working. You heard the King's speech yesterday about the new oil and gas licences being looked at annually. Your tactics aren't working, but it's getting more and more dangerous. We've covered your protests and the disruption that it is causing week in, week out. Today, we're hearing about this ambulance, or the concern of somebody needing help being blocked because you're a protest group. It isn't working, is it?
Well, with respect, I don't think we're sort of far enough away from these incidences to draw that conclusion, right? You know, the fact is that I agree with you. You know, fundamentally, you know, I think it's balmy, really, that we're in this position where we've got normal people having to march in the road to request something that the government should just be doing anyway. You know, the fact is that the British government are breaking the social contract. They are not protecting us by licensing new.
It's time to stop blocking the roads. It isn't working.
With respect, Jim, that has been said about every single social movement in history.
What if somebody died because of it? What if somebody that needed... Because, you know what, it would be too late. We could be having a very different conversation.
Absolutely, you know, and I fully, you know, I accept your position, Jim. But I mean, I would say that, you know, we do, like, Just Stop Oil has a blue light policy. We always get out of the way of blue light vehicles, and we
didn't today.
Well, we did, because we weren't on the lane that.
If you weren't in the road, the police wouldn't have had to block the other side.
Yes, I accept
Right.
that. But
So you are responsible.
What we need to understand, though, is that out of all the hundreds of marches and blockades that Just Stop Oil has done, not one person has been seriously harmed, right? We take a huge amount of effort to ensure that there's no harm done to anyone, right? And, you know, we will always continue that. Just Stop Oil is inherently non-violent, and we will always be accountable for our actions. It's not a perfect position. I don't feel comfortable about it, and I fully accept that it's an ethical quagmire. But we are in such a serious situation as a species. If we allow our government to go ahead with licensing new oil and gas, that is going to result in the death of millions of people. What are we supposed to do about that as normal people when we don't have millions of pounds to lobby government?
Why don't you stand for election and get voted in by the people and then change the policy?
Because the fact is that we don't really live in any sort of meaningful democracy, do we, Jim? Because we have a first past the post electoral system that basically enables. Do you know the vote breakdown in 2019? You required 22 times more votes to get a Green MP.
Okay, we don't need to go. You don't want to stand to be a politician, and you don't want to be elected to get a policy across. You made that point. Could you tell me? Do you have any plans, your organisation, to disrupt the Lord Mayor's show?
Well, obviously, we don't ever discuss our future plans
because you want to disrupt them on the day.
Well, I'm not at liberty to say what's coming up, Jim. But just to address this point on the standing for election.
Why don't you tell people? Why don't you
elect a Green MP and 38,300 for a Tory? That was with 45% of the electorate entirely unrepresented. That's 22 times more votes needed to elect a Green MP than a Tory. Is that a fair electoral system?
I'm asking the questions. It's a 695th Lord Mayor's show. Are you going to disrupt the day?
I think that we need to be looking at the real disruption here. You know, we in recent
so
weeks,
we can expect that there's a possibility you will be then by your answer. A quarter of a million people are expected to line the 3 Mile route. Millions will be watching. I suppose it is the kind of event which you want the publicity for.
Jim, 33 million people were displaced in Pakistan.
Am I right?
This last year, we have seen Southern Europe on fire. We've seen Canada on fire. We've seen tens of thousands of Libyans.
You don't want to answer the question, James?
I just think that we should be focusing on the real disruption, Jim. Why aren't you talking about the real disruption?
We talk about the climate all the time on this programme. All the time.
I'm glad.
Right. And I'm asking you about whether you have plans to cause more disruption, because that's what you guys like to do to get your message across. Are you going to disrupt
as you well know,
are you going to...
for reasons that should be reasonably obvious, we don't discuss our future plans.
James Skeet from Just Stop Oil, thanks for coming on the programme. It's approaching 3:30.